Welcome everyone to our 13th episode of Exploring the Library. Today it's a bit of an interesting topic because this was an assignment that I gave to Alex to do at some point and decided instead of doing it in private, like behind screen, we're going to just do it as a live stream. And if you're watching and you have feedback and questions and stuff like that, feel free to come join the conversation. But basically what we're looking at is looking at all the cards from Welcome to Jaelara, Raze, and Beta actually, going through them and figuring out what are the cards that felt right to keep in the set, and what cards could we maybe have skipped or redesigned or left in for future set. So let's start first by asking, how is this table organized?
Great question. All right, so I was doing it at a sort of a weird perspective. That was like, if I was to put this in a get this in a pack, how do I feel about it? But this also includes how do I just feel about the cards in general. So the very bottom are the cards I really like.
Okay.
Then you go up to the cards I like. Then we go up to the cards I'm unsure about. Then we just go up to sort of, I call this the vanilla area, and it's mostly summons.
Okay, that's fair.
And then it's the cards I don't like.
Okay.
Slash wouldn't like to pull in a pack.
And then, what is the different columns? Because I can tell straight up, this is Beta over here. In the middle, we got Welcome to Jaelara. But each of these have 2 columns to them as well.
It is the rares. Because then there was a side class you said to it is like, if there was something that didn't feel right in its position as a rare. So I just sort of sorted those two. Okay. Which is more, I think, in the unsure piles is the questions for me for that area. Mm-hmm. I could have with them.
Okay.
All right, where do you want to start?
Let's start on. Well, let's focus on Welcome to Jaelara and Raze, and then come back to Beta later.
All right.
So maybe let's start with Welcome to Jaelara. I think that's a good place to start. So do you want to take these off the table, just so we have some more space?
Yeah. I could just move them over here.
I had everything selected, and then they deselected it. There's no great place to put this.
Just group them up. I'll have to, when we go to the next file, I'll just paste them all, we'll group them all, and we'll do it again.
Alright, cool.
Alright.
So, looking at the cards...
Start with paper.
Oh, no! Do you want to go back?
It's okay. Okay. No, we'll fix it as we go.
Okay.
They should be in the same pile. Alright, so these are I love to pull these in packs / my favorite cards from the set.
Okay.
So, you got Thunderstruck, Bleep, Landslide, Dawagen, River Knee, Shadowgrass, Epiphany, Adrenalines, Substrikes, Hurricane Sweeps. So these are the ones I absolutely love to pull in my pack.
Okay. So you got Jay, Bellum. Let's go 3 in Bellum, 3 in Thymos, it looks like. 2 Axon and 1 Chaos. The nice part is you do have a lot of the HEs in here, which is a good kind of look at it.
I think there's a card missing from here. Oten should be here.
Oten's from Raze.
Oh, yeah, Run J. You're right.
Alright, like, these are pretty solid cards. We've seen them in our top 10 lists. We've talked about these quite a bit. Thunderstruck's actually a really surprising one, because I don't think that showed up in your Axon top 10 list. But
it's a card I overlook. It is a really good card that I think a lot of people overlook.
Okay.
But I've only recently started to be like, why have I never played with this card?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of love-hate for it. I think part of it is just the fact that it's super expensive. Like 24 is quite a bit of aura when you look at it. But I think, like, especially in a limited format or casual format, they're really great. And if you're playing a heavy caster, they can definitely do some serious damage. Okay, cool. And then the rares?
The rares, Meteorite. Malicious Persuasion, Malfeasance, Stone Protector, Cabus, Chrono Walker, Alim, Bolt Shot, Angel, and Purifying Wave.
Alright, so if we start grouping all these together. So, I guess one of my questions would be, from any of these cards that are not rare, which ones of them do you think should have got the rare status?
The not rares that could have been rares would definitely have been, where is it? Subjugation.
Substrike?
I could definitely have seen a Subjugation Strike at rare. I don't think Adrenaline's at the rare status. I think at a uncommon is fine. I think that's the only one that I can see moving up.
What about Epiphany?
Like, oh, that's true. Yeah, I just, when I don't see Epiphany usually. When it's on the table, it just doesn't exist to me. I don't play Epiphany decks. But power level, yes, Epiphany 100%, 200%, easily a rare, no doubt about it.
And are there any of these rares that maybe should have been dropped down to an uncommon or, even a common?
In this pile here, I don't think so. These are my favorites. I think if there was any argument, no. I don't really see any. If there's anything, actually, no, that's not true. The only one I could actually see going down, despite its being its value, is Cabus. Is because, realistically, this is a vanilla. But at the end of the day, the uniqueness is its cost. And that's why so many people love it and why it's so high value.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, it is just a vanilla.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as a rare, still happy with it. To pull it in a pack, you love it. It's one of the most expensive cards in the set.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Okay, I'm gonna try to get us the next file. Figure out where the file begins and ends. Let's see. That is unfortunate.
I thought it was your first time. Should have chrono walked.
Should have chrono walked. All right, let's just start doing this.
Alright, for everyone who's watching, what would be your favorite cards from Welcome to Jaelara? What are things that you feel should go up in rarity or down in rarity or anything like that?
And there's also some of these files where I put cards, I'm going to change my mind about them as we go.
That's fair.
Like, I found Elemental Dominance here in the good pile, but after thinking about it, I'm like, no, this is a trap. This needs to go away. Too many unexperienced players put these in decks thinking it's good, and it's not. It's just too much of a trap for me. Yeah, this one had a big pile. Okay. Those look like bad stuff.
Yeah.
Alright, well, I may have mixed the piles a bit, but I think it was not my amazing, but pretty good pile. Pretty good.
Alright, so we got the Stag, Guardian of Balance, High Dualis.
Doesn't make sense. Well. Oh. Just grabbing them for you. This one's a pretty big pile that will have to probably go upwards. Yeah. Just debating with myself as I see cards.
Yeah.
Mm. Need to give ourselves more space next time. Okay, I'm so close. Let me look at this. One. I think this row specifically is extremely more variable on the scale of playableness. That makes sense. Like there's some that I don't play, but I see why some people play them, and they're on the list.
These are the chaos ones, right?
Yeah. So some of the weirder ones I think that are here is Draco's Cavern. Like nobody plays with it.
Yeah.
But I think it's a very interesting card that people haven't tried to play with. Because it's like, if you run Draco's Caverns, Rapier's Precision, that's 2 damage bonus to whatever techniques you're playing. You could be playing Fire Hills, that's 3 damage. The question is the amount of setup you can do is really the question for it. The rest are all good. I don't think there's anything I would need to argue about here. All of these are good.
Yeah, like all these.
This may be the weakest. This may be the weakest one, but I'm happy. I'm happy with it at the card.
Yeah, it has a home in the game. Like there are, if you think of like casual players, new players, and even in certain decks, like if I'm making a fire deck, especially with just Welcome to Jaelara, or if you're even using into Raze, this is a pretty solid 5G option for a fire deck.
Yeah, I agree. You
would think it's a whole deck, but it's a fire.
Only card I think here that at this point in the game is Rebound is the hardest one to play. It's just so expensive.
Yeah, it is.
But I still put it in decks, so I'm arguing with myself. So, then in Chaos, the weirdest one here I think is Tattered Remains and Fearmonger. I think it's more so I like the uniqueness of Fearmonger, even though it's really not that playable.
Yeah.
Yeah, really not that playable, but I like the uniqueness of it. It's a common.
It does have a fun little home where if you're standing in a position and you drop the Fearmonger to your left and your right, and then you have then any army that comes to attack you, they just get stopped. I don't think enough people play these as kind of a setup. I think it'd be fun in an Idris deck, but people just kind of take over. What's his G level? It's 5. That's part of the issue, is that at 5 G, you're looking at a much more stable offensive card. But I think there are certain deck styles, like if you're sitting as an Idris, like Idris with a Giant Scorpion behind you and 2 Fearmongers to your side, that could be pretty fun.
Yeah. This one here is my weirdest one, I think, on the Chaos list. I don't think I've ever played it, but it is unique. I would definitely see this going down to a common. I don't know if it's good enough at the rate of an uncommon. I'm going to do a quick scan of the area to see if there's any other things that are... I feel like we're at the point where Inferno Pits should really be a common. But I feel like, did these just adopt the rarity from the previous set? Is the question.
For the most part. I mean, some things change in rarity based on player feedback, and also it's other variables that came into existence, like how did we want the set to appear, how rare do we want particular items to appear in the game. So Reconfigure Reality is an interesting one for me because I don't really see a lot of people play it.
I agree. I don't see a lot of people play it, but there is so many bolt shot decks that are played that people should be playing this card. And it's possible that the 6G is just slightly too high.
Yeah, that's fair. Interesting. Okay, So these are the cards that you think, as a whole, and welcome to Jaelara, these are the cards you're looking for in the set, right? Like, the bottom row are the ones you're digging for, but these other ones are ones that, if you crack them in a pack, you're happy getting.
Yeah.
Now we'll start getting into the cards that are just like, they're not worth getting into. So how many cards of this? So welcome to Jaelara as a set is 135 cards. How many cards are back here? I'm gonna start grouping these together.
Do it. Yeah, we definitely have the pile of unknowns or undecided. I have my undecided piles got mixed up. That's what's got mixed up.
So 41 plus you got the 20 here. So 61 of 35. Someone do that math for me. But it's over what's 50%? So 67.2 is 50%. So it's close to 50% of the set, which isn't bad, all things considered. Like, if 50% of your set is still playable cards, even though meta has shifted quite a bit, it's not bad.
All right, so here comes my. I think I'm in my bad boys. Actually, I think this starts my undecided cards pile. Let me just take a quick look.
Yeah.
Where did I put that? Like,
Did
I throw it off the table?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, okay, put that back. Just a quick scan. This area. So I think these are my bad cards. My naughty. You can start scanning through them if you want while I keep fixing this. I'm figuring out what's going on here. Yeah, I think the rest of these are undecided. I'll pull out the rares that are the bad boys of the rares there. There we go. Blue. Demon Scrolls. And the rest here are undecided. Yes, these piles here are undecided. So, short list on the bad boys and the rare piles. But we've talked about bad. If you were here last week, we talked about bad cards. It's like this is definitely a card that can easily change with the future, of course.
Yeah.
But just as it is, it's a bad card.
Yeah.
This is a card I've tried to use, never been able to. I don't know if you've seen anybody have actual good luck with it.
No. But it's also So the question is, how much is 2 energy reduction really saving you in the long run? Because of the 2 resources, or 2 things that can kill you, lack of timeline and lack of health, your health is much lower than your timeline.
Yes.
Even though you dig through it one at a time, you still don't often lose from running out of cards each time. So yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Lulu, that's interesting.
I could see this just as a lower rarity. I think I could see this as a lower rarity. I don't think this is a rare in any of the case. I have never seen this have an actual impact on a game.
Lulu?
I've seen people try, Lulu. Like I could see, perception wise, a 4 chi deal 3 damage to the opponent for 10 aura. That's actually pretty good. That's pretty good. Just that concept right there, especially since it's at the end of the board. But it has that interesting text that says summons may pay for that. Pay for this. That spoils the day of this card even more. And then the next spoil is, if the opponent is already in the thick of battle with you, you play this and they know they have an AoE or this is just going to be irrelevant, they just let it go on the board.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely interesting.
I don't think this is Demon Scroll level bad. Demon Scroll level's bad is the fact that I don't want new players to get this card because there really is nothing they can do with it right now.
But
where I can see Lulu. This is a card that down the line, when Genesis has a lot of cards, and I mean a lot of cards, and a lot of HE cards specifically, and you need like a 2-card HE combo, that's when this card starts having a place. But as a card right now in Genesis, this is a dead card in every pack you pull, and it's one of your rares.
Interesting. Like, we're already seeing, I can imagine, looking at just some of the Future League cards, I'm just going to pull them up for a second. So you got the Axon and Chaos Future League cards. So there are some definite HEs in here that are going to, that you might want to scrolls for, especially if you're looking at something like Water War. Alistair, like, I think in that situation you would rather just put another Alistair in your deck. How's the stream for people who are watching? Because it did show red for a second there. And then, is the background music too loud? People gotta remind me to turn down the background music. It's their fault. See, these are two cards that in different situations.
This is the only spot. Awesome. I would agree. Like, I ran the Kendra Water Warp Dragoon Spear deck. It would be an interesting option, but it always comes down to, do I want to play 27 aura plus 4 life in my Kendra deck?
Like, I think in certain decks, if you're doing some, oh, I'm not promoted. That's why I can't create new cards. But if you're,
I almost kicked you. I keep promoting you. There's promotion.
But if your HE pool was something like this, where you just have one of these, two of these, and two of these, and it's just the 5 of them, like your deck isn't a Water Warp deck or Dragoon Spear deck, but you're using them for what they are, which is the negate and then the AoE board clear, then having one of these can be really solid, especially if your deck's like sitting on some 7Gs that you're looking at as well, like meteorites. You need a meteorite at a particular time. But again, it's the issue of having enough health. So looking for the right champion who's Axon Chaos, who has enough health. I don't know if Core can do it, but I'm sure there's some Future League champions that are probably better suited for that situation. Because
and then we also get in the scenario where it's players want one of this, but we're giving it to like every player, and it's for this very specific deck in this very specific situation, where realistically this deck can run without it. It's just that one-off scenario. Also, if you're only running one in the deck, your odds of getting it are terrible.
No, I don't disagree, and I definitely felt the pain that it's like Demon Scrolls is just not a very solid card to build the deck around or put into your deck. And how do you make it worth it? It's so rarely ever worth your while to Demon Scrolls for something. But I think the advantage is when you once control decks start becoming more of a thing, and you need specific cards for specific moments. Because we're also looking at the 7Gs like Cog Restrict or Chrono Walker, Meteorite. Those are really specific cards for really specific moments. And that's where I think Demon Scrolls could help stabilize a deck. But then Axon already has enough draw and other things to stabilize, so it's a weird position. Anyways.
Yeah, that's the other question is like, I understand the exact place to play it, but just playing Epiphany over this, it's the odds of drawing one of those cards and getting extra resources is just, it feels much better. After looking at these 4 here, this is the one I don't want to see, because specifically for if newer players, I don't think this has a purpose. I think it's a distraction. They look at this, they think it's good, and it's not good. It's gonna just ruin. It's gonna make their deck worse in the long run of it. These, on the other hand, after looking at them and just having them on the table, Seeing them at a low rarity, I think I'd be fine with them. There's a chance that down the line, maybe some of these cards become better. But right now, pulling them in the pack, they just sort of feel bad.
Yeah. I'm definitely curious about them. I don't know. This one, it still feels like it's just too expensive. Even when the day comes that it could do something, there's probably going to be better options for you.
Better cards then?
Like the cheese slot is just too desirable.
Definitely possible.
This one, again, the cheese slot's a little bit more cleaner. Like at 5GE, you could see something.
Yeah.
Maybe there becomes a moment where we're talking about Beat Rush in the past. If for people who don't know, let me pull the card up. But where is it? Why isn't there? We go. Beat Rush, Beat Rush, Beat Rush. There it is. Ah, it disappeared. Oh, Tabletop Simulator. Like, I pulled it out. It's not there anymore. It just disappeared.
It's on the end of the table. It's here.
Oh, Tabletop Simulator. Where is it?
Right here in the middle of the table.
Oh, so it's on... Okay, it didn't show on my screen. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, you have a 999 ping here showing on my side.
Yeah. The stream's definitely dying.
Bad connection.
Oh, I know what's happening. Let's see. I'm wondering if it's trying to run this off of my Wi-Fi compared to hard connect into. See, this is the thing I hate about computers. They just get really confusing at times.
Yeah.
But the stream seems to have... Oh, now it's reconnected. Everything says it's online. Let's see how it's doing. Alright, it says it's alive. So. I'm just waiting because it does say someone's watching on Facebook. I'm wondering if it's me who's watching. Nope, not me. So whoever's out there on Facebook watching, let us know if you can hear or if the stream's working at all. But coming back to Anger of the Phoenix, when I think of Beat Rush, I think, okay, maybe there's a chance that this card can combo with that. Because one of the biggest pain points about Beat Rush is that best case scenario, you can only play 4 of them in a game. And that's if you have the champion with the highest energy reduction. If you have an Anger of the Phoenix, voice is a little low. Okay, that's just me being a little drowsy. So Anger of the Phoenix, if you do this and you're playing with a champion who has 3 energy reduction, let's say, so you do this, that's 5 energy off of Beat Rush, going down from 12 to 7. That allows you to play 7, 14, 21, 28. You can get 5 of them out, but you have to play 1 a round. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So maybe there's something you can do there, which could be solid, but it's on the riskier end. So I can see that. Lulu, the advantage of Lulu is that it's unique enough. Drop it down to a low rarity, like even if it was down to uncommon, maybe even a common. It does what it does. It's nifty, but it's not. I kind of get the point that it's like it's not that rare worthy.
Yeah, and that's at the end of the day, just looking at these, that's just where it's at. They're not rare worthy.
Yeah. All right. And what are these down here?
I think these are my bad boys. These are bad. Like some of these we may even know are already getting remakes or other stuff in Future League.
So these two are two that I am a bit more iffy about. I don't 100% agree that they're just bad cards. Holy Imbue, I think, has a particular place in some decks. The advantage here is that being able, if you're making a Holy deck, it's not very often that you're running a summon that doesn't have Holy attribute already attached to it. So in that regard, it is definitely on the weaker end. But the advantage here, it's 3 chi, and if you're playing a Holy deck where you do Imbue, you do Branding, then being able to turn your Bolt Shots into Holy attacks, being able to turn your Hurricane Sweeps into Holy attacks for a very minimal cost, it's pretty nice. I would look into, if you're running a Holy deck, running 3 or 4 of these on your 3 chi slot, just to give you some diversity on your 7s, 6, 7s, and 8s. Well, I mean, if you're running Substrike, oh wait, no. Substrike's execute attack does it do Holy damage? Because I know the cast does. But I'm wondering, is it a Holy attack 5 on Substrike?
It is a Holy attack, yes.
Okay. So that attack's doing Holy regardless. But if you look at Hurricane Sweep, you look at Bolt Shot, these are cards that are, you have a little bit of reluctance to put into a Holy deck. But if you can put those in, and then on the off chance that the pieces fall into place, and you've now branded your opponent, and you want to do a Bolt Shot, you can now hit them for a little bit extra, which is, I mean, a good place for a 3 chi.
Yeah. So I can agree to that. It's really just something that I don't play with that much.
Yeah.
I do like it way better than the 4 chi enchantment ones. Because I think a 3 chi slot is easy to fill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can agree. I just find Rajati Lions just so awkward. And then as a summon stat wise, it's below. It's just below the stat line for me.
Yeah. Like at a 6 chi, you want to be running something with at least 4 health or 4 attack. It doesn't have to have both, but it needs to have at least one of those.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. The leader ability is definitely on the weaker end, but I think the great place for this is in as an introductory card of how this game leans into the tactical elements. So in demo decks, this card definitely has a home, and so there's that place. And then even in multiplayer, there's some value into this card.
Yeah.
But
just looking at it now, I would like to see that this exact card could exist. If this was a Swift Beacon, that would change my mind.
Yeah.
To protect yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree about these. These are cards. Yeah. Shockwave's one of those cards that everyone wishes it was more playable. It would definitely be much more playable if it was in Bellum. Like, nothing else needs to change about this card. You just need to move to Bellum, and it's like, oh, now you can run it with Kun, or if you don't have Kun, then you can run it with Flight. But now that you need Flight, you're now forced to play Ajna, and that's where the challenge comes in. So I think that's the big challenge there. Stranglevines is just too costly. Too much aura.
Yeah.
Take to the Skies, we've seen revamps. It's getting pushed. Course of Command, we've seen revamps. Or seeing revamps. It hasn't been tested yet, but it just got its way to Future League. Cecil Cage. I mean, I like the artwork. Finishing Blow, it's just way too expensive. It's way too expensive. Elemental Dominance, I agree. Like, it's a trap.
Yeah.
By the time you make your money back on this, the game's already over, and if it's not over, and like the decks that do well with it, I do that like Silent applaud them. I'm like, good for you, you did that. But then it comes down to the question, what do you spend the ore on? You got the ore back. Now what are you gonna spend it on?
More elemental dominance, because you didn't just put one in the deck.
Yeah. 5 protects. It's just awareness was off on this. If it had the left, right, forward, or something like that, I think, because like fire defense 3, that's a decent amount. But again, it comes down to that niche space of preventing only fire damage, and its awareness is already so small. Plus, it's 4G. Like, there's just so many little pieces to it that start falling apart. So yeah, I don't disagree with any of this. These are the only two that I'm like, I wouldn't be opposed. Like, Rajeshi Lion as a common would be fine. And it's just there for new players who are like, just bought the starter kit in 3 packs and got themselves a Rajeshi Lion. And it's like, yeah, throw that into your deck. It's decent. Its awareness does make up for the fact that its stats are low.
This pile here is what we call the boring boys. This guy shouldn't be in it. This is a good guy. He should be in the good piles. So the boring boys don't actually mean anything. It's just when it comes to the boring boys, I think you need to balance it between the 2 sets together on who you want in. That's where I believe the boring boys. You need to question their positioning. I think I don't think any of these.
I just don't.
Okay. We'll put them to the bad boy section for you. There you go. So then, like, for me, the next step is like, which of these summons work well in their proper elements? And I feel like, I don't think there's many of them, is there? Cow does water. But I think this question is, this one stays off for the boring boys from the other set, and then you figure out who you would keep.
Yeah. So like Silverleg's an interesting situation. I think
if it's in the 3G, it gets brought up. It gets brought up usually.
Yeah.
But it's still technically, if there's another 3G in the Jaelara in the other set, you gotta look at the other two, compare them.
So the thing about Delaying Hound is when you look at drafting, this card is really good.
Yeah.
Because now anyone can run it. Everyone needs summons when you're drafting. And it's cheap. Like 5G, 9 aura. It's just cheap for everyone. Now, it's the same thing with any of these summons. Any of these like core vanilla, like true vanilla summons, is once you get into the drafting realm, these have much more value.
Yep, and that's why I said all these, for me, there's not really a reason to compare with each other or figure out what's bad or good. Yeah. It's more so you take this list and the list from the other sets, and you figure out which ones you really want people to be getting in the pack. Otherwise, I don't. Maybe Ricky Rabbit is bad. Maybe.
Steve,
I don't know.
What do you think?
It has a place, and it's a bunny, so it has to exist in the sets, right?
But there's other bunnies in the set.
We don't want riots on taking out bunnies out of Genesis.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna group these up because I think these are something you observe at the end with all your summons at the end.
Okay.
I'm gonna move these 2 3Gs over to the good pile. I know Halogen.
Steve replied.
Okay, so
screaming riot.
Here, okay. These are my. I am unsure what to do with these cards. You want to start with the rares or the non-rares?
Let's go with the rares.
Okay.
Always much more of an interesting conversation. So let's just do this.
So.
Boom.
So Primordial Force. Oh, Primordial Force.
See, now this is another card that very easily, if you just drop this rarity, it'd be so desirable. Like, you see it as an uncommon, like getting it as a rare, it's like, oh, this card must be good. Like, there's this preconceived notion that rares are playable. So when it shows up as a rare, you're like, oh, okay, this is great. When it shows up as an uncommon, you're like, all right, this is a fun card, and it's really cool. It's like that, the 8 mana 8/8 in Magic or something like that. It's like it just is what it is. This one has the value that it has the side awarenesses though. I would love to see a
I think you're
Primordial
right.
draft.
I think that's what it is for me. I would like to set uncommon.
Yeah.
I just getting it, especially for me who's opened so many beta packs, and opened so many Portal Forces and just put them off the side, and I'm like, oh, I wish you were an angel. Even though I don't even play angel decks, but just when pulling it, I'm like, I know I'm not going to be playing this.
I just wish it didn't have the holy weakness. Like, I know it's so minor, but it's just in those random situations where it does matter, you're so frustrated that it matters. It's just like, oh,
yeah.
Why are you doing holy damage?
So Mystical Sphere is just it's a weird one. It's just a weird one for me.
Again, I totally think that if this was an uncommon, because I love the card. I straight up.
I think we're gonna find that a lot with this pile specific. So then we get to the Azure Tiger, the Bad Baruch. It is different. It does play differently, but it's just its cost is just so much more costly for casters who want to play it, even the fighters who want to play it. It's you just generally just play the Brook instead.
Can Basher play this?
Yes.
I'm thinking about things now.
Okay. So I see where you're going with Basher, but even then, you're just sort of bringing it to the cost of Baruch at that point. It's not a bad card in any stretch. I don't know if I'm losing you here.
No. I'm sorry.
Okay. Like, it's not a bad card in any stretch. That's why it's in my I don't know pile right now.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with it. Like, I'm not upset if I pull it in a pack, but I have never built a deck with it, because when I go to build a deck with it, I'm just like, wait, I can just pay 3 more aura and play a Brook over paying 5 energy. It's like, it's close, but it's just so similar. Like, the only time I see it like really played is for Thematic when you're playing a cat deck. So that's why it's just a weird one for me. I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah. I've seen too many situations of Baruchs not getting their moment to shine just because of the fact that it doesn't have the quick beckon mechanic. Here you lose the 1 damage, which is true. You lose the elemental branding, which is true. But I think the fact that you get that quick beckon in the right deck, in the right sense, especially if you're playing someone like Basher, or someone who wants to move twice every single round, then I think it needs to fit the right deck. And I think there is a deck space for this. Yeah. It's just, now in those deck spaces, the question usually comes up, because the best champion for this of the current 12 is Fong. But with Fong, when you're there and you're like, okay, I've eliminated Baruchs because I don't want to be moving once per round. I want to have the freedom to move twice every single round if I need to. And you're like, awesome, let's grab the Ajna Tiger. And then you're there with the Ajna Tiger and you're like, but Bolt Shot. And that's where the problem comes. But the moment you don't have Bolt Shot as as your choice, I think, and you're looking at, Thymos Axon, Thymos Fates, maybe Thymos Chaos. Because when I'm looking at, again, there's no quick beckon there's no other quick beckon for any of these other colors. I think there can be some doors open up. So I think really what this is missing is the right champion to make this card shine.
That's fair.
So I'm gonna still say I think it's just a solid card. I just don't think it's found its home yet. And that's the thing that's holding it back. So I think it's solely in terms of rarity. All right, Temporal.
Like I said, I'm not upset when I pull it. I don't know what to do with it. That's all I said. Yeah. So I'm fine with that. Temporal Relocation. This is here for you. I don't know. Should this be a rare, Sid?
No.
You tell me. No. I want you to know. Okay. There we go.
just because the people who want it want quite a few of them, and the people who don't want them really don't want to pull them in a pack. The card's nifty. It does really fun edge cases. It's for a specific players who are more like me. So anyone who is, raise your hand. Yeah. But I love Tempora. I think there's so many fun places for it, but it's a fun card. It's not a strong card. And for that reason, I don't think it really should be at the rare level. If it was pushed down to uncommon, maybe even down to the common level, then we could see a lot more interesting decks play it. Because then people have them in their arsenal to run. So, yeah, I don't disagree with that. Shakti, I'm
Malefic
surprised.
Shakti, I don't like this card. I hate this card with a passion. I don't know if we've ever talked about that.
No.
I think this card is very expensive. Discarding one card from your hand, if you're not Nubia, is so much to ask for. It is so much to ask for. And then the baseline, this is just a 3 damage card. That's all it does. It's got nice awareness. That's where it ends for me. This is just a 3 damage card.
Yeah. I think the big issue here is also like the context we're in, which is when you were looking at 3 damage, comparing this to Future League, it definitely does not shine at all. If you look at it purely in J, when you're looking at that damage, the amount of damage output, we normally didn't see spells and techniques do damage on curve. They were usually a little bit below curve. So for a card like this, dealing 3 damage on curve, so it's a bit more pricey. Normally 3 damage we were seeing at the 6G slot, which is Shadowclaw. So comparatively, this to Shadowclaw, this is, yes, it's expensive, but you get a few benefits out of it. It can hit aerial. It has the side awarenesses. There's just a little bit more that it can do. So I don't disagree with your statement. If we were to reprint Welcome to Jaelara, I definitely wouldn't be looking at this at the rare level. And I would probably look at redesigning it as a whole, right? Like, I don't see why it needs to be just so expensive. But our formula's changed a lot. Our perception of the game has changed a lot.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to say about it, it's a perspective that a lot of people don't see. If this is now a top deck card, and you're empty-handed, you draw this, it is now a dead card. Next turn, top deck card, and let's just say your next card you draw is a Primordial Force, and you have the aura to play it. Are you going to discard it to Malefic Shakti? And it just continues that every turn. You're like, did I get you're hoping to draw a bad card so you can play Malefic Shakti.
So on the other side is, if you're playing a champion, you get into late game and you have a handful of dead cards because you ran out of aura, then I guess this card already costs aura, so never mind.
Yep. See, if this was just discard 1, my mind's changed. I'm good. I see the place for it. It's when you're dead-handed, and you can't play your aura cards. All right, let's move on. Let's not. We don't. This option. Serpapard Ascension. Oh boy, does this guy cost? I like it. I actually do like this card actually, but it just costs so much. And like the real home we've only ever seen it was the OTK deck, and they only really ran 2 of them. It's like this versus the 5G just Darkness brand. This costs so much. That one costs 3 aura and 1 life. This one costs 5 energy, then 8 more every round.
Yeah.
It's just a lot.
Yes, yeah. But again, part of the reason was, from the design perspective, was there was so much concern about a card like this existing. Like, how much does it push the boundaries? And we already saw that. Like, it pushed the boundary way more than we were expecting it to. Because the OTK deck existed where we didn't expect it to. And the fact that this can compound. Like, you draw 2 Dark Brands, you can only play 1 that round because the second one does nothing. You draw 2 of these, you can play both of them, and now all your dark attacks are hitting for an additional 2. So if you kill your opponent, the tithe doesn't matter. So this was one of those weird places in the game where we just didn't know how much this was going to push the game and in what direction. Now again, same card, throw it down to an uncommon, it's not so bad. Because now it becomes a tool in the tool chest compared to a card you need to search for.
Yeah, I agree. I would just throw it down to uncommon. So here's a weird one, Demon's Rage. Some people love it, some people don't. I'm one of the people that don't. I only play it if it's the only card I have access to and I need AoE. That is the only time. I like Rain of Arrows. I know some people don't. So if I'm in Thymos Chaos, it's Rain of Arrows for me every time. So for me, I never play this card, is realistically what it comes down to. But some people love it. That's why it's in my I don't know pile. And that's it. That's all I gotta say about it.
I think, so here's the other side to it, is I don't think people are ever disappointed when they crack one of these, though. Especially for newer players, like people who've been playing, like, it's only when you get to a point that your collection is very full and you're like, I don't want to get a sixth one of these. But once
I would agree.
Getting your first three is definitely a fun journey.
It also has awesome art, so people are more likely to like it.
That's part of the reason why people love it.
Foresight of the Ancients. Another interesting one. Down the line, will this break the game? Possibly. Possibly. Right now, no. Is it played very often? No. It's in my I don't know what to do with it.
How this card would look in a summoner deck that's aimed to go second, because that's the thing about these cards that cost exert, that are swift and cost exert. You need to build a deck that's stable to go second. So imagine a Bellum Axon, Guardian of Balance, Foresight of the Ancient type of situation. Well, no, Guardian of Balance you want to go first. Never mind, not the Guardian of Balance. Kendra Control, maybe?
See, but the hard part about that is those decks don't... Kendra Control, maybe. Actually, no, Kendra Control, maybe. I was going to say those cards don't usually have stacks, but Kendra Control does. But even at that point, you're drawing 3 usually at the most.
I got it. Core Call to the Bones.
Yes. Okay. All right. All right. Yeah. Let's try it. Build it. We'll come.
I'm not saying it's going to be a very solid deck, but it's definitely going to be an interesting deck. A deck that's geared towards going second. Call to the Bones can allow you to, you got that, I don't know what summon, but just say the summon in front of you. Like, there's an Ozma Tiger. You have 6 Skeleton Warriors. You attack with all 6 of them, create this massive stack, and foresight them.
Yeah. But so the question is this a rare? Do people enjoy pulling it? Is the question. Do we have any audience right now?
We have 3 people. I'm super curious. What do people feel? My viewpoint of this is the other conversation. So there's a few things that go into the decision of the rarity of the card. One of the questions that goes into it is complexity and openness. So when I look at the complexity of this, how comfortable at the time of printing, how comfortable do I think people are when it comes to the concept of the stack? I would say it's definitely more of an advanced mechanic. Down the line, we want the stack to be very, very common. We want it to be at the forethought of people's perspectives. So in the future, there'll be cards that reference a stack and will be at the common level. For Welcome to Jaelara, I think it was very suited to be a rare. If we were to, so for everyone who's watching, just so there's a bit of a background on this, there is this idea that maybe we'll look into reprinting Welcome to Jaelara and Raze when the inventory runs out. And when we do that, should we print the set exactly as is, or should we make some tweaks? And there's some tweaks that we're looking at making. So one of the questions that this is the assignment that Alex has been working on, which is what cards would you want to see tweaked, removed, and so on and so forth. So when it comes to Foresight of the Ancients, I would be looking at at most dropping it to uncommon, but it's still one of those cards that I think it also pushes
Yeah,
players.
I think it's fine at a rare. I don't
Yeah.
think it needs to come down to uncommon. It's not like these other cards
Yeah.
where I'm like, this is just an attack. This is just an attack. This isn't just an attack.
Yeah.
This is, you need to do something with this. You need to build around this.
Yeah. And I also see it as a card that when people see it at first, they're like, how do I exploit this? And that part definitely gives it a bit of a rare value.
And so we have Firehill. We just talked about how Serpapard's Ascension needs to cost so much, but this one doesn't. We've also seen Draco's Cavern, same set as well.
Mm-hmm.
What makes this one so different is the question. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? Does it need to be? Does it deserve to be a rare? Is this really just? Is Draco's Cavern really a common, and this is the uncommon version of it?
So the thing about this card is it can become a linchpin in a lot of decks, right? Like if you're making a fire deck that's Thymos Chaos, this card can definitely become a really solid linchpin to make the entire system work well. The fact that it's the only elemental card that is self-isolating, right? Like if you top deck this, you can turn your basic attack into a fire attack, hit them for an additional 1 damage. Like it's completely self-isolated, which is really solid. And then and then it gives synergy into so many other things. We've seen the Rabbit deck play this card and enjoy it. So from that perspective, it's like it's a very interesting case study of how these cards need to function. Now, I think the biggest pain point with this card was that it's 6G. If it was down to a 5G, then it would be a lot better. Like it would see a lot more play. The fact that now it's at 6G, there's so much that need to be built around it, and that's where the pillars came out from. Was a realization that this card did something really cool. Let's make pillars that do that as well.
You just blew my mind. Now I gotta think about all these cards from the perspective that they'll be going in with at the other set.
So, how do I perceive Firehill? I don't know if it deserves the rarity that it has, but as a card, I think it still has a home in this game. I think it definitely has it definitely provides a lot of value when it comes to excitement levels, changing the gameplay, going from a very vanilla back and forth punching each other into the face to who can be at the top of this hill, who can be the king of the hill. It changes the mini game that you're playing inside the larger game. So there's a lot of fun to this card. I think it's solid. I would reevaluate the rarity, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it stayed at a rare.
Okay, I'm gonna put it down here for now. All right, Battle Cry. I am not a fan, and then I tried it a bit, and then I became even less of a fan after I realized I couldn't Battle Cry my Baboon's Rock Throw triggers because they weren't played abilities; they were triggers.
That's true. That's true. That is pretty annoying.
And then we've sort of gotten Instill Vigor, which is sort of a minor version of this. They are different, definitely. For me, it's just I understand it's for the summoner, but just play a 6G card that deals 3 damage. Play a Whip Smash. Your summon's there, enemy's there. Whip Smash them. That's where it is for me. I've never been able to. I don't like Battle Cry. That's it. That's where it is for me. But that doesn't mean it's a bad card. It's just I don't like Battle Cry, and that's why it's my I don't know pile.
So I've had some fun with this, where I had a Baboon Spider hit an Angel for 4 because of it, and then Fireballed that Angel. It really comes down to, can you find a home for it? Again, my first thought is this with Call to the Bones, because then you get enough 1/1s that you like. It's not about taking a mid-sized creature and making them big. It's about taking a small creature and turning it mid-size temporarily.
Yeah.
But you need a good summon
I think you're right
with it. Androthera would be a perfect example of a summon that you want a battle cry.
Yeah.
Because it has the range, it's cheap itself, it perfectly balances battle cry. The biggest issue with battle cry is why is it 6 cheap? Why is this card 6 cheap?
Yeah.
I know it's really annoying for me to say that because I'm the one who made the card, but why is it 6 cheap?
But why is it 6 cheap?
Yeah. No. Again, I think this should be a common.
All right, let's move forward.
Come on, man.
Vorpal Blade. Vorpal Blade.
This card's perfect where it is.
You like it where it is?
No.
So for me, for me, it's a little overcosted. I think that was just the place where it was at back in the day. But I could also say, I could agree that it is probably 5 more. Specifically because Holy is sort of a off. We're sort of. I feel like we're stepping away from Holy and Dark because they got so much at the beginning. So as far as a tool for Holy, this is probably the tool for Holy.
Now, take it off the Holy sense. Say that it's just a generic card that does elemental damage, and then when it deals the damage, it brands them with the same elemental type. And you could tell that this is the type of card you need in those elemental themed decks. It's swift speed. Yeah. It's doing damage as a base. Ideally, you would want to brand them, and then if they're branded, you do some damage to them, like reverse the order of those things. And it could be a little bit better of a card. But still, like the fact that it's doing the 2 damage and then it's branding, it could be played offensively, played defensively. The one place where I love it is with Long, because I don't want to spend a lot of aura on non-summons. So this is cheap on the aura side. I'm okay with burning the 4 cards because the card does enough for me. So
4 is not a lot. 4 is, I think, the right point.
Yeah.
When it's at 4, it's fine. You can pay it. As soon as it goes to 5 or higher, you're like.
So 4 is a fun number because it's not a problem until it becomes a problem. Where with Vorpal with paying 4 energy, eventually it could become a problem. That's the thing. Like if you overspend in a game, you can get to a point where you lose because of it. But until you hit that point, this is just 8 aura, right? And at 8 aura, doing the 2 damage and branding them is very good.
I agree.
Yeah, it's just I think the big sad part about it is that it's only in the confines of Holy. If it was any of the core elements, Earth, Air, Water, Fire, Electric, the card would be phenomenal because then you got the pillars to balance it out. You got so much more support working with you. But this is one of the cards that makes the Holy deck playable at all. Without this amnesia, there's just no point in playing Holy. But that being said, do I want it as a rare? I question that.
That's the question, right?
Yeah. I question
okay, I'm going to bring it back down. I'm bringing it down to the question area. Rapier's Position. I think you've talked about this card before. It's that you guys pulled back on this card.
Yes.
That's all I remember.
Yeah. The big thing being like, so this is the big issue of not having Future League. Like when it came to Welcome to Jaelara, we had Future Leaguers. I don't want to say we didn't. Like JC, amazing support during Future League. Stevo, amazing support. Yourself and Steven, you all helped us out so much in the Future League time. But the game was so young at that point, and the only reference we had was how do things work in Magic. So whenever something pushed the boundaries, we always played it cautious. And that's what made this card falter. But the concern was, in the first time we play tested it, it didn't cost Exert. And it was like, okay, you draw a few of these in your opening hand. You play 2 or 3 of them. And then all of a sudden your bolt shots are now absurd. Like, bolt shotting for 7, it just becomes ridiculous. And even
so here's 3 cards that essentially do the same thing. Here's 3 cards that essentially do the same thing. For me with Rapier Position, even with these restrictions, the question is, why was it a 7 cheat? We have these 2 here, 6 cheese, sort of doing the same thing. Except this one also has a cost with every ability you play.
Yep.
It's its own thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So purely, it's the champion that's on Rapier Precision that made that decision. Because if you have 3 Rapier's Precisions down, and then you do Raha's AoE ability that's built in, then that's some serious damage. And that's really what it came down to. When we were playtesting this card, using it with other champions like Nubia or who else? Nubia, Fong, Long. The card was fine. The card worked okay. The moment you started running it with Raha, the card became absurd. And that's where we had to scale it back, where we just wanted 1 per round being played. Would I change that? No. But I would make it that the take off the other costs. Take off the aura, take off the energy on the enchant cost. Just make it pure exert. And then on the enchantment side, I'm fine with a little bit of extra energy burn because of what the card does.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I agree.
If you just made it pure exert to play it, because even at 7 cheat, if you have just say you're playing limited, you're playing draft, you get this, you run it in Nubia. Well, what does this mean for Nubia? Well, now Nubia has a built-in 2 attack, which is decent, right? Like that's one of the things that holds Nubia back is that once she runs out of aura, all she's doing is hitting you for 1. Well, now if she can hit you for the same amount as Fong, Raha, Malik, then she can start doing some serious damage. So at 7G, I think the card would have been fine. 7G, just exert to enchant, and then pay the energy on the trigger. And then this card would have been still probably not rare worthy. We would have kept it at rare because of the uniqueness and the design. But the card would have been playable, much more playable. Now it's super expensive.
Yeah.
It's just super expensive.
Yeah. So reprinting it now, would you bring it down a rarity?
I would even look at just pulling it from the set if I were if I was thinning the set down. If I wanted to print all 135 cards, I would probably drop it in rarity. If I was looking at thinning the set to pull out cards that maybe don't necessarily need a reprint, this is one of those cards that I'd look. It's just there's no way to fix it at this point.
Yeah.
Oh,
so for me, Divine Intervention is just not rare worthy. That's just it for me.
Yeah.
It's just uncommon.
Exactly.
That's all. I have nothing else to say about it. Card's fine, just not rare.
Oh, how many people do I have watching? We have 3 people watching. All right. Who wants to hear Easter egg, hidden thing, silliness? All right. So, all right. This base, there's a little triangle in this artwork, which is, well, I guess it's kind of a, what do you call a 4-sided object? A square almost. Between Fong's blade, the pillar, and her arm, there's a little bit of blue right there. Like the sky is a different color of blue than the rest of the sky.
Yeah.
Can you guess why?
Why? Sorry?
Yeah. Why do you think that part of the sky is a different color than the rest of the sky in the background? It's absurd. It's the most absurd thing.
I don't know. There's something else there. There's a creature or something poking its head out.
Nope. It's Nubia.
So is Nubia looking in here? Is that it?
No. So what happened was the artist ran out of time and couldn't generate a background. So he took Nubia's artwork from Philip's piece. So where's Philip's Nubia? Search objects. I mean, this is probably something I shouldn't say, but I just thought it was hilarious. So right there, if you look at this Nubia artwork, it's the top of her cap.
I see it. Okay.
Yeah, it's the top of her cap in the background of Divine Intervention. That's why the clouds look the same. If you look at the clouds in the back of the Nubia artwork and the clouds on Divine Intervention. The same clouds. Because it's just the zoomed in background from Nubia.
Oh, okay. I see it all now. I see it all.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
I only noticed it because when they sent me the final artwork, I was just flipping through the layers, and I was like, wait a second. When you take off fog and rain from the artwork, you just see Nubia in the background. It's awesome. There's people's Easter egg. All right, cool. And then
we'll quickly run through these uncommons here.
Yeah.
These are my unknown uncommons, so we're just gonna do it quickly as I flip one over. You decide. Sphinx,
common.
uncommon. Common.
Actually, no, uncommon. Just because flight and aerial, such a powerful mechanic.
and aerial,
I
yeah.
think it's fine the way where it is.
All right,
Common.
displace.
Oh, it's exactly where it should be. I wish it was.
Okay.
If it was a Swift, then we're talking a whole other ball game. But yeah.
Yes.
I think as
All
a
right.
common, it's fine. This card sucks.
Neutralizability. Is it worthy of a card to be
No,
reprinted?
it's not worth the cardboard it's on.
Heavy defense, uncommon or common?
Common. It's still a very, very solid draft card.
Elemental mastery.
This is a card.
Is this a good card?
This is a lot better than people give it credit for. But still common. Because it needs its home, but once it finds its home, people are gonna be looking for them.
But so the question here is, it's a 5-chi that does a lot of what 3-chis and 4-chis are doing.
Yes, but it also can synergize with your deck or take your opponent's deck and put it at a disadvantage. So if your opponent's playing a pillar deck, then yeah, libraries. I think it's fine as uncommon. We talked about that.
It's fine as uncommon. Gale is fine. I don't know why it's here. Reckless Demolition. Reckless Demolition. Is this a good card?
Yeah, as traps become more of a thing. This so I wish that the Earth Attack was Earth Attack 4.
Yeah.
Because then it'll match its chi level. But take out the look at it from another perspective. Once traps become more of a mechanic, you're gonna run this being like, it's my anti-trap card as a fighter, and on the rare chance I get face-to-face and they're not trapping me, well, I can just hit them for 2.
Okay.
I would rather see a redesigned version of it that does damage,
I agree.
But until that exists, this card's fine.
Cleave is fine, right?
Yeah, it's fine as a common, yeah.
Yeah. Phoenix Fire. I'm not a fan of this card.
Neither am I. But some people love it.
Some people for some reason love it. I think Lionel loves it, doesn't he?
I know Carl does.
Oh, is it Carl? Okay.
Yeah.
Should this be an uncommon? Oh,
no. It
would
be fine. Like, that's the thing. Think about this in a Basher deck. It's just 4 aura for an AoE damage. Like, it's okay. It's good. Like, it's draftable at that point. Anyways, Smoke Bomb.
Smoke Bomb.
Stay as an uncommon. It's such a fun card, and I think new players love it. And when you're first building your deck and you don't have Chrono Walkers, this card is definitely a solid option.
Proskinesis.
Again, once skills become more of a thing in this game, this is going to be something people are going to reevaluate. Now, should it be 6 energy? No, it should be 2 or 3 energy.
No, yeah.
But until a revised version comes out, this is something to hold on to when people are starting to run those higher skill cards.
Okay. Quick shot.
It's fine where it is.
Power punch.
So a little while ago, I would have said that this card is a common. It's not that great, but people have been showing me wrong. Like, it's seeing more and more play. Some people really love this. So
Disenchant.
Too expensive.
This is the same position. It's sort of the same position as Proskinesis, though, right?
Yes, yeah. It's in the same position. I mean, it's 3T, which is great, but a 3T at 12 aura, just 8 aura. If it was 8 aura, this card would have been perfect. But again, until something it gets evaluated and recreated. This is fine. It's good enough for now.
Holy Suppression.
Shot in the dark. This card could have been cool. It's not worth the cardboard it's printed on. Well, I mean, the artwork's pretty. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Long taking down a behemoth. That's just awesome.
Direct defense.
For
Is this a trap? Is it not good enough to be played, or is there a place for it?
Anything that's pure defense, just and it's not the card that's wrong. It's that this card in Genesis is wrong. Genesis is too fast-paced of a game for a card like this to be solid. If it was printed in Alpha, it would have been great. The fact that it got printed in Welcome to Jaelara, it's not at the right tempo for the game.
Yeah, I agree. So is this the card you'd reprint, or is this not worth the paper?
I would look it over. I wouldn't probably put it in.
Okay.
It's iffy though, because it's such a good example of what defensive cards could look like in this game. Like, if you get rid of all the defensive cards, then there's no defensive cards in the game anymore. So it's so iffy. It's in my middle zone of, like, I would try to keep it in. If it got cut, then it got cut, but I would work on trying to keep it into the game.
Side question: where did Fagin get a shield?
Just because they don't have it on the artwork doesn't mean they can't do it.
Well, that's fair. There could have just been a shield on the ground right before the attack. He picked it up, right? Cathedral of Vadis.
It's waiting for its moment to shine. I don't think that this card's bad. I just don't think the cards to support it are there yet.
I agree.
Because
it's weird. It's weird. Is all I'd say. Is it an uncommon or a common?
Common.
It's a weird one.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I would have to say common.
Haunted Catacombs. I believe one day that this card will be part of a break the game deck.
Yeah. I don't.
One day.
The card's so interesting. And it's not the way people are expecting it. It's not that you're going to use it against yourself. You're going to somehow find a way to get your opponent on it and then build walls around them. And then they can't play ability, so they can't get off of it. And then they're just stuck in this Haunted Catacomb, withering away. It's very Edgar Allan Poe-esque. But, yeah, I think it's fine where it is.
Blazing Strike.
Oh. Every time I try to put this in my deck, I'm like, I'm just going to pay one more energy to play Rampage Toss. Every time.
Every time. Does that mean it's not worth playing being printed?
The worst part is that even in a fire deck, I pull these out for Rampage Toss.
I agree, because Rampage Toss is so powerful.
Well, it's also because I'm like, well, that gives me an excuse to run Fire Imbue or Fire Hail. I play Fire Hail and I'm on it with Rampage Toss. It doesn't matter. It is blazing.
I also play Fire Hail and Rampage Toss together. You just do it.
Yeah. It just, this card falls shy on almost any kind of. So the question is, if Rampage Toss is in the set, then Blazing Strike doesn't need to be there. You don't need both.
Okay.
Andrew's fine.
Andrew's there. That's good. I don't know why. I don't know why I was confused.
Like, that's just a
Dark String. I hate it, but I'm sure it's here.
Yeah. It's fine.
We finished one set.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Come back next week for where we go over the next set. Oh my goodness, that took so long.
What's this card? Oh, it's a paintbrush.
Yeah. So we'll do Raze next week, but yeah, there's a lot of interesting kind of ideas. When it comes down to it, there isn't a whole lot in this set that I don't think should never have been printed. Every card at some point will find some sort of value. Just some of the cards that and like even if it's not like something like Demon Scrolls, where we're saying okay, it's annoying pulling it from a pack. It doesn't have a place in a deck. You know, there's gonna be some people who like having that card in their deck because of the versatility of it. It's just Rain and Kendra aren't set up for it. But
now, we did not talk about this. Would you print this at a different rarity because of that? If it feels, I feel like if you play this game like even a little bit, you realize that Demon Scrolls isn't playing.
Yeah, it's so hard because then there's the balance. There's a few balancing factors and symmetry things that you're looking at when it comes to the set, and it's hard being like, okay, three. Now, if Primordial Force went down to uncommon, so Angel and Purifying Wave stayed at rare, Primordial Force went down to uncommon, then I would consider dropping this down. If this was the only one that was dropping down, it just feels weird. Like you lose that symmetry, where you have the 4 tribal cards not being rare. But if they were scattered themselves, it's I don't know. It's definitely difficult.
Well, we currently do have Primordial Force in the to go down pile.
Yeah. Are these the cards that don't need to see? Yeah, so there aren't a whole lot of cards that are so bad that if I were to remake Welcome to Jaelara, would I print these cards? This card I would fix the 3 damage. This card I would probably just change the cost. This card I'll change the chi. This card I'll change the tempo. So like, do I regret printing these cards? I don't think I regret printing any of these cards except for No Man's Land. No, I mean, no, I can't defend it. I just can't. I can't. Because the question is, like, I've seen people build decks around Elemental Dominance. Finishing Blow, I would take that in pinch in a draft, right? I'd rather have a playable card, like Finishing Blow, than having, like, another Silverlight Eclipse or something. Like, this can still get you out of certain situations. It's action speed, which makes it a little bit harder. But, you know, it's still 2 damage if you really need it. It's hard to play in a draft, but it has its niche spaces. A lot of these cards have their niche spaces where they could do some value, give you something back. I won a match, actually one game, because of naturalized attributes. It was a draft we were doing for Welcome to Jaelara when it came out, and I was playing against someone who had drafted a Malik Dark deck, and I was able to naturalize their darkness when they went in for their killing attack. So some of these cards still have value. It's just No Man's Land just literally has no value except for the artwork. Now, that artwork is worth the cardboard is printed on. That artwork is gorgeous. But the rule text does not need to be there. Yeah. Like even Shockwave, I mean, there could be random situations where you finally execute it, and in a draft, it wouldn't be my first pick, but I mean, 10th, 11th card in the pack, I don't see why not.
Yeah, that's fair. I can agree with that.
Yeah, that's where a lot of these cards kind of rest, except for No Man's Land. I'll hate on that card forever. Yeah. All right, cool. I know this was a bit of a messed up live stream. Thank you for everyone who kind of worked through that and helped us get through it. Thank you to all our Patreon supporters. Thank you to everyone who helps us on a regular basis. And let's try. I'm looking forward to hopefully things opening up in spring. So even if we're not sitting down to play, at least we can meet up in person and talk about these games. So, yeah, things are hopefully getting better over the next several months. Yeah, I think that's everything for this week. And next week we're gonna do.
Thanks, guys.
Pardon?
I said thank you, guys. I was just thinking that.
Yeah. Next week we're gonna finish off. We're gonna do Raze. All right. Have a good night, everyone.